Okay, here we go. It's June 26th, and I've received quite a few requests for an update. Everybody was wondering how I've been doing and wanted a shop update or the haul truck update. It's been a long time. It's been months, probably 7, 8, 9 months since I've made a video. A lot has been going on since then. I'm okay now, but I will kind of explain more of it in detail as I go on. I'm going to do a little sit down video. Just wanted to show you that not much has really changed in the shop. Haul truck is still there. It's still kind of where I left it in my last haul truck video. I haven't been doing much of anything as far as that goes, or as far as shop work goes. I really haven't been doing much of anything, but again, I'll explain that in the video to come. Bring it back. Okay, so one of the things that I've been occupying my time with, my grandson Matt and I have started trap shooting. We started a couple of years ago. I never mentioned it, I don't think, in any previous videos. So I have two guns. They're both Brownings. I bought this one. So I started out with this one. What it is a field gray Browning over under 28-inch barrel. Again, it's a field gray gun. Started trap shooting with it. Of course, let me just explain that we only started trap shooting 2 years ago. Now, I had previously, back in the late 70s, shot 1 year of trap with a friend of mine, not with this gun, but with a Mossberg type pump gun. Shot trap, only did it for one season, or one league actually, so it was only probably about 8, 10, 12 weeks of it. And again, then dropped it, and again, Matt and I have gotten back into it. So I started out with the over-under field gray type gun. We progressed, and I started shooting 25s pretty regularly. Of course, you don't shoot them all the time, but I shot them pretty regularly. Then, so I went into a gun that was more designed for trap. Anybody that shoots trap knows that the patterning of the gun is different on a trap grade gun than it is a field grade gun. The shot pattern on a field grade gun goes like 50-50 as your point of aim. A trap grade gun goes, this one happens to be 70-30. So 30% below the shot, 70% when I say shot, the pattern of where you're aiming, 30% below that aim point, 70% above the aim point, because as you're shooting trap, most targets are raising up at the time you're shooting them. So that's that. But anyways, so we got into that. That's occupied a lot of my time. But I'll bring it back again, like I said in the opening clip. I'm going to do a little sit down, and I'll explain some things about hauling, about the shop, about my health, about different things. But I'll bring you back. So let me just, as you may have realized from the intro, I've had a couple of health problems. Let me start by telling you that back in early December of it would have been of 24, we had a snowstorm, and I came in the morning to the shop. There was a bunch of ice in front of the doors. The man door, couldn't get into it. But that's kind of a usual issue. So I leave a shovel out by the man door to kind of get snow in. I carried a heater, a little battery operated heater that you use to kind of, you can use to heat, melt, shrink wrap, stuff like that on electric. I carry that in my truck because the lock on the man door freezes and you have to de-thaw it before you can get the key in and operate it. So I came in, there was a big pile of ice that had come off the roof in front of the front man door. I started shoveling it and breaking the ice up, shoveling the ice out of there. And the heart issue came back. I kind of knew it right away, but I got the shortness of breath pretty bad, and I kind of fluffed it off as just being out of shape. Kept shoveling it, and it got worse and worse. But I did get the door shoveled out. Got into the shop and came in here and thought, yeah, just sit down for a minute and I'll relax and it'll go away. It didn't go away. It got pretty bad, so I called Matt up, and again, we had a snowstorm. He says, I'll be right over, because he knew that if I called him that it was pretty bad. He actually got stuck in his driveway. He called me back. He says, listen, I got stuck in my driveway. I'm getting out. I'm going to call an ambulance. I'm going to get an ambulance on the way there that they can get you to a hospital a lot quicker than I can. I've got to get out of here. He called an ambulance. Him and the ambulance kind of showed up at the exact same time. So the ambulance, the guys got me onto a stretcher and started putting me in the ambulance and says, where do you want to go? And I told them I had been to Mercy Hospital, which is the closest hospital before, but I didn't like their post-op service. They performed the stent, putting the stents in my heart. They performed that fine, but their post-op, not the intensive care part of it, but after that was terrible. It was just horrible. So there's a place called Gates Cardiovascular, and it's in downtown Buffalo. It used to be out farther north of Buffalo, in the northern part of Buffalo, but they moved it to downtown to a medical campus where Buffalo General Hospital is located. I says, I want to go to Gates, and that's kind of Matt's opinion of it too. I want to go to Gates. And the ambulance guy says, no, you're not going to Gates. We got to get you to Mercy. You got to get to a hospital right away. So they got me in the ambulance. Matt said he was going to follow me, and they took me, and I'm a pretty strong-willed person. Partway down in the ambulance ride, I said to the guy, I says, man, I'm going. I'm not going to sleep. I think it's coming to an end here. And I said, can you stop and let Matt come in the ambulance with me? I don't want to die alone. Okay, you probably know that I cut a section out. I told the ambulance guy, I says, can you stop the ambulance and let Matt get in with me? And because I don't want to die alone. And he says, I don't think he's behind us. I think we're going too fast. So he just started talking to me and told me to keep talking to him while they were going. The driver calls back and he says, I've got a traffic jam here. And the guy says to him, push him off the fucking road. We got to get him to a hospital. So they finally got me there, and I was kind of awake during most of it, but I kind of went in and out of consciousness. But they got me in, and again, it was a blockage. They had to put 2 more stents into me, and they did that, got me into the cardiac recovery part of it, and I was good. I mean, as soon as I came out of kind of post-op being anesthesia, I was good. Fuck, I was ready to go home. I mean, with that kind of procedure, it was again, it was a clot blockage. They went in, got the clot out, put 2 more stents into me, so I've got 4 stents in my heart now. But once they had done that, I was fine. I felt fine. So I got out, and ironically, so I had had an experience with Mercy Hospital as a Catholic healthcare system. They had, after I had gone there the first time, they had sent me to a place called Trinity, which is part of it's a cardiovascular center for Catholic health. I went there for like a year and hated the place. Never saw a doctor. All they do is just prescribe more medicines for you. I hated the place. So I had switched and gone to a place called Great Lakes Cardiovascular. And ironically, after this heart attack in December, 2 days after I got out of the hospital, I had an appointment with them. So I went to them. They went through what happened with me. They talked about the medication that I had, and said that one of them was kind of a trial, or it was a my insurance company doesn't recognize it as I forgot the term what they use for this medicine. It's an approved medicine, but they don't accept it because it's kind of still in a test basis. And I have to pay $500 a month out of pocket because the insurance company won't, just for this one medicine, won't recognize it, it won't accept it. So anyways, I went to them. Kind of got me on track with the blood thinners. After the first one, my first heart attack, I really didn't want to take blood thinners. The blood thinners, I says, if you can see that on my arm, every time you bump yourself, you touch yourself, you get a bruise. I didn't want that. So this time when I went into them, they says, you've got to take this medicine. You've got to start taking medications for this stuff. You've got to accept it and just start taking it, because, kind of 3 times, and maybe you're not going to be so lucky the next time. But anyways, so that, I got over that. Then, back in March, getting back to the trap shooting, I was in a league. It's called a traveling league, a winter league, and there's like 8 different trap clubs that you go to, maybe 10. So this had started, and I was in that, and I think it actually had started before I had the heart attack. But anyways, back in March, like March 9th, I was on my way out to a shoot, and it was about 30 miles away. It was the last shoot of the league, and I was on my way out. And I got this funny feeling in my side. Not a pain, let's not call it a pain, like a discomfort. And so I was on my way out, and at one point I actually kind of felt nauseous. Never got nauseous, but I felt like nauseous, got this nauseous type of feeling, and which is very rare for me. I never get sick. I don't really get colds, don't get the flus, don't get anything. And I don't get sick to my stomach. And having that nauseous feeling was a real rare thing for me. I haven't probably been sick to my stomach in 30, 35 years. So I called up Matt, my go-to guy, and I says, this is weird. I've just got this weird feeling, and then I got this nauseous feeling. And he says, well, maybe you ought to come back, and it's weird that you're like that. Maybe you ought to come back, and we can go to the ambulatory center. So I turned around and went back part way, and it just went away, totally went away. The discomfort, the nauseous feeling, which had only lasted for like maybe 3 or 4 minutes, but that everything had gone away. So I called him up and I says, listen, it went away, everything's good now. I turned around, had another probably 15, 18 miles to go to this place. I turned around and went to it. By the time I got there, it was back. The discomfort feeling was back again. So I never shot at that thing. I told the guys, I says, listen, I don't feel good. I'm going to go home. So I went home, called Matt. He says, I'm going to meet you at the exit to where you get off of the kind of an expressway type thing into where I live in Hamburg. And he says, I'll meet you there, and we'll go to the ambulatory center and make sure that everything's good. I went to, got off at that exit, and everything had gone away, totally. He says, well, I met him. He says, I'm going to drive you, take you there, and you're still going to go. So I went there. I didn't feel, was no discomfort, no nothing, felt fine, absolutely fine. Got there and told him what had happened, the symptoms and everything like that, and he says, we're going to do a CAT scan on you and just to see what's going on. They did a CAT scan, and he says, you've got a kidney stone. And it's fairly big. It's over 7 millimeters in size. He says, we're going to give you some medication, pain medication, because you might get into some very bad discomfort here, and nausea medicine, because he says the kidney stones make you sick to your stomach, can make you nauseous. So they prescribed this medication. They said, we're going to set up an appointment or have a neurologist, not a neurologist, urologist, contact you and set up an appointment. So they set up an appointment with a urologist. The first appointment, I go in, they see me, but they also set up an appointment to have me at their place, have x-rays and an MRI done before they actually saw me. So I had gone in there, they gave me some medicine to begin with, had me come back the next week for this x-ray and MRI. I went in there, did that, then right after the x-ray and MRI, same building, went into their office and they saw me, says to me, "You must have passed it, it's not there." I says, "Listen, I've never had a kidney stone before, know nothing about it, but I kind of know what 7 millimeters is, and I don't think I passed a 7 millimeter kidney stone." But again, I don't know. And they says, "Well, some people pass these things and never know it. Other people are in horrible pain, have to take them to a hospital in an ambulance. But maybe you're one of the rare ones, but it's not there anymore. You're good." So I had a haul I had to make. Had to go down to Virginia. I had to borrow a trailer and go down to Virginia, and that's another story which will be later in this thing. I went down to Virginia, picked up a machine that I had to take down to a YouTuber in Georgia. And I picked it up. Then on the way back, with this borrowed trailer, I had to pick up this fairly large generator that was in Virginia. I'm sorry, I had to pick up the machine in Maryland and take it down to Georgia and then stop in Virginia and pick up this generator. So I went down, everything was fine, got down to Georgia, everything was fine, got the machine unloaded. On the trip back to Virginia to pick up the generator, I got into South Carolina. And if anybody knows, in South Carolina, there's a part of 95 that is extremely bouncy. I got onto that section of 95, and that kidney thing acted up terrible. I was in excruciating pain. I was at a rest area, the truck stop part of a rest area, because I had my truck and a trailer on, unloaded, but I was in that part of it. And I called up Matt and I says, "Man, I'm in such fucking pain, I can't even walk." He says, "I'm going to call an ambulance." And he says, "Well, call an ambulance." And I says, "Dude, I'm in so much pain that I don't think I can call an ambulance. I can't look up an ambulance service, or I don't even think I can call 911. So he actually got the ambulance for me. This is about 11 o'clock at night. They show up to this rest area and they take me to a hospital. It was about a 30-mile ambulance trip to get to this hospital from the rest area in South Carolina. And it was part of the university system, a medical center, part of the university system, and maybe I can put the name of the place down below. But I showed up there, and once they got me in, they gave me some painkillers, morphine actually, for the pain that I was in. They did a scan on me, a CAT scan on me, and they says, "Yeah, you've got a kidney stone. I don't understand how your urologist in Buffalo said that you had passed it." He says, "It's very evident, and it's bigger than 7 millimeters like they told you. It's almost 8.5 millimeters in diameter." And he says, "What do you want to do? We know that you're on the road. Do you have some place that you've got to go?" And I says, "Yeah, I've got to pick up a generator in the morning, tomorrow morning." And he says, "Well, listen, this is what we can do for you. We can go in and put a stent in there and block that kidney stone from moving, which will keep you out of pain. but it's only a temporary fix. Um, and you're going to have your urologist, once you get back to Buffalo, schedule a removal of that kidney stone. So I got back to, so they did it. They did this procedure. Now, this is 11 o'clock. By the time that I got in there, it was after midnight. So we're all talking the same day. They got me in, they did the scan, gave me the painkillers, did the scan, told me what they were going to do, sent me to an operating room, put me up, sent me to an operating room, put the stent in there, and had me back out. And by 6 o'clock that evening, the same evening, they had discharged me. Now I had to get a taxi, find a taxi. These people were great. A nurse actually found a taxi for me. Found a taxi service that would pick me up at the hospital and take me back to this rest area. So this was 6 o'clock at night. I went back to the rest area. I was fine. Again, no painkillers. They had prescribed some stuff, but they had prescribed it at a pharmacy around there, and I wasn't going to drive to a pharmacy with a trailer on and around there. So I said to him, listen, just give me the name of the pharmacy, and I'll have them, when I get back, I'll have them transfer the prescription up to my pharmacy in Hamburg. And that's what they did. I got out, got discharged, got back to the rest area with a taxi, went up to Virginia the next morning and picked up this generator. Everything was fine. I was kind of telling people about it because I was supposed to actually been there the day before and had to let them know that I wouldn't be there. And so they kind of asked about what happened and what I had gone through, and they gave me people that they knew that went through the same procedure and the pain and stuff that they went through. But anyways, I got back to Buffalo with the generator. Well, I dropped the generator off in Pennsylvania, got back to Buffalo, got out my urologist, and I told them what happened, and they scheduled a operation for me to have it removed. So they says, we're going to go in and remove it with a laser. We have to take that stent that South Carolina put in you out. Then we'll go in and remove the stone with a laser. And but we have to put another temporary stent in there that we'll remove a week later, just so that we were assured that the orifice from your kidney down is unobstructed and open and stuff like that. So they did that. Now, this is the same urologist that told me the stone had passed. I got the stone removed and went home, and they said you should be good, and then in a week you'll come back and we'll take that stent out. I got that stone, I got home, and after the anesthetics that I had been put under had worn off and the painkillers had worn off, I was in fucking severe pain again. It was in pain so bad that it was pain as bad as the kidney stone was. But to me, it almost felt like a burn. Like when they had done this with a laser, maybe they had burned my kidney. So, make a long story short, I went back to the ambulatory center, got Matt. Matt gave me some pain medication and stuff like that. went back to the ambulatory center like the next day, and they did another CAT scan on me and says, listen, we don't know what's going on, but your kidney is swollen bad and infected. We want you to go to the hospital right now. And I says, well, okay. So I was with Matt. Matt again took me. He says, you want me to drive him over there? And I says, no, we want to put him in an ambulance and take him there. They put me in an ambulance and took me to back to this Mercy Hospital again. And I was in there, and before they sent me in the ambulance to Mercy Hospital, they did what is called a blood culture. Now, I had been having a lot of blood tests, but this blood culture is something different. So they did that. So I went to the hospital, and I was in there for, I think, a day and a half or something, and they had me on IVs and antibiotics and stuff like that. And then they discharged me, and I went home. I got home probably around 6 o'clock at night. Got home, slept for the night, came into the shop the next morning, and 6 o'clock in the morning, I get a call. And the caller ID identifies it as Mercy Hospital, the place I just left. And I answered it, which is rare. I don't usually answer telephone numbers that I don't recognize. I answered it, and this guy identified himself as a doctor from Mercy Hospital, and he says, your blood culture came back, and we need to get you back into the hospital right now. And I said, what's going on? And he says, you've got a pretty severe blood infection. And so I get him, go back in. He gives me instructions on how to get back into the hospital, go to the emergency room, and they'll get me in through that way. I go into this hospital and go to the emergency room, and they don't know anything about it. Make a long story short, they take me into the emergency room, but I sat in the emergency room probably for 8 hours before they could find me a bed on the floor of where they wanted to take me for this blood infection. Now, they were giving me antibiotics and stuff like that while I was in the emergency room, but I was kind of just in there part of the time, laying on a gurney in the hallway of the emergency room until they had a unit of the emergency room, a room they opened up where they sent me, and I could actually be by myself, get some rest, and not be in the hallway. But then they took me up to this floor and treated the blood infection, which they think was caused by the kidney issue. So, make a long story short, they put me on antibiotics and gave me IV antibiotics while I was in the hospital, and it kind of treated this. Now, I was not 100% when I left there, but they gave me antibiotics afterwards, and I did that, and it got better. So after I got out of the hospital, I still had that not catheter. I can't even think of the name of it. But anyways, I still had that thing in my, to keep the tube open. So I went in with the urologist into a kind of a medical center, not a hospital, but a medical center for the urologist, where they could perform this, removing the Can't think of the name of it. But anyways, they pulled that thing out of there, and they did it without putting me under. And it was, they gave me some stuff beforehand, but it was still kind of painful. Painful when they went up there, they had to go up through your bladder. They had to go up through the bladder to get this out of there. It was kind of painful, but I survived it. Kind of had some words with the doctor about him creating pain. I says, "You're not putting me under to do this procedure," and he says, "No, it's fine. You a little discomfort, but there's gonna." And I says, "Man, I'm not good with people subjecting me to pain. You give me a lot of pain, and I might have you by the throat." But it wasn't bad. I mean, it was discomfort, a lot of discomfort doing it, but he did it and got it out of there. And I've recovered from that basically. So I'm going to end this part of the video here, and we'll come back to the rest of the bad things. I'm kind of over it now. The heart thing, we've got it under control with the cardiologist. The kidney thing hopefully is good. Actually, I have an appointment this afternoon where I've got to go back to the urologist and just do another x-ray and another scan of it. But I'm going to end this clip of the video here, and I'll come back with some trailer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is kind of end this video here, and then probably next week I'll put out the second part explaining about the trailer. As you can see, since my last video was a year ago, months ago, the scrap pile's gone. We have gotten some other stuff in here. I'll explain that in the next video. That's kind of Matt's stuff out of his truck, but let me terminate. Cut this video off, and I'll bring you back next week, explain about the trailer and some other things that have been going on. I'll bring you back. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe.